Hey guys, Marco here with the Northern Angler. Been doing a lot of swing trips over this fall. Been seeing good numbers of fish. And today we're going to tie a little pattern that's been working well for me out there. You know, between us at the shop, we've kind of, named it the Marco's Wood Perch. The first thing we're going to do is add a shank in there. This is about a 25 millimeter shank. And what I'll be tying this with is GSP 100 thread. Just a super strong thread that doesn't add a lot of bulk to the fly, so it works nicely with these type of swing flies on there. So the first thing we're going to do is tie our thread on, and I like to start with just a little nub of thread so there's no cutting in the first step, so it just ends up saving some time on it. So I just fold that over there, and we're going to put a nice base on. And it's important that we get a good base going because we're going to attach our trailer wire onto it. And there's nothing worse than, hooking a big fish or a log. You pull your fly off and all you have left is a hook shank. So super important to have that good strong base on there. We're going to add on, I like to use 65-pound Power Pro. I've used a bunch of different Power Pros in the past. Oddly enough, the 65-pound is the stiffest one I found, even stiffer than say like an 80-pound. So works really, really good for me. And I like to add a loop on there, just big enough to slide over my hook. Right now I'm using a size 1 owner in the fall. I'll downsize that, in clear water or as, water temperatures drop sometimes, and those steelhead can be a little picky. I'll go with a little bit smaller hook on there. And what I do is just kind of line it up. It's about the size of the shank that I'll be tying on. Match it up there, and then we're going to cinch it down. And we're putting on our thread, or tying on our thread here. We're going to go up and down the piece of the Power Pro. Once I have that nice and secure on there, I wrap back on it, cinch that in good, and then from here, cut it from the back side of the scissors, because Power Pro does dull up your scissors pretty easily. And then I actually like to wrap it a third time up, just to really secure it on there. It's something I've been doing recently, and it's worked well for me. So once we have that on, I'll attach my weight. I usually like to tie most of my swing flies with minimal amount of weight or even no weight to them. And then, I'll either add a cone or attach split shot to it while I'm out in the river. Instead of adding weight on right away, you could have low water conditions or reasons why you wouldn't want to use that or have a heavily weighted fly. So with this sort of method, you could tie one fly and it's kind of universal, and you can adapt it to any fishing condition that you're going to find out there. So with these, you just do some nice X-wraps on there just to secure it nicely. No rhyme or reason for the wraps I'm doing. Just want to make sure that that's nice and secure on there. Get a little move. Those eyes are stuck on there now. So we're going to take our thread and go back to the back of the shank. And the first material we're going to put on is this UV polar chenille. In my swing flies, I like to mix both natural and synthetic flies. I also find that the UV is kind of a nice bonus on there. I think it gives a really cool effect on the water, and has worked well for me. So we'll tie that on by the tip there of that thread, and then we're just going to palmer it. And we're just going to wrap up the shank, say roughly about halfway up the shank. There. So we're just palmering that up. And that's going to give kind of a cool underbody effect to the fly. I like to fish these flies a little higher up in the water column. The steelhead are going to be sitting down lower, so they're going to be actually looking up at that fly. So I like to have some UV colors on there for them to check out. I think it has some cool properties to it, and just really grabs the attention by the fish, and I've had good success with it. So once that's wrapped on there, really cinch that down. And then for me, these fibers are just a little bit too long. That's this is the full length polar chenille. So I actually like to go there, pull it all up, and then trim it down like that. So that's kind of the underbody or building the body of the fly. The next thing I like to do is use a tan or a brown grizzly hackle. And the reason, this is really the cool thing about this fly is that in the past I used to tie with a lot of rabbit strip, a ton of marabou. And the cool thing with this is that it doesn't hold a lot of water, so it's easy to cast. You got to remember, when we're out there spey casting, we're out there to really enjoy the casting. So it's super important, and I like to use materials that shed a lot of water, don't hold water. It makes it just for a more enjoyable day out there. And especially if I have someone new to spey casting, the lighter the fly is, the easier it is to put it out there and get it to where the fish are at. Also, if you are adding weight to the fly as well, it just helps it sink that much easier in there. So I grabbed 2 of these grizzly hackle fibers or feathers out there, and we'll kind of measure it up. I like to have it just come a little bit behind the trailer wire that I have, and then I cinch it on. And we're going to do 2 of these feathers on there. So once that's cinched on there, I take it, fold it back, cut it. Take the other one, and then we're going to go to the other side of the polar chenille. I like to measure it up first. Got our length there, and then I'll strip the fibers back on the second one. And then we're going to come in from the other side. All the bait fish, that you're going to find in the Great Lakes are going to have a modeling to them, or even barring. So having this feather come off the side like that, I think mimics a lot of the bait fish that we have here in the Great Lakes. And the cool thing with this is, I tie it with olive hackles. I mean, all sorts of colors. You can get as crazy as you want with this. This brown color has just been one that's working for me. I also do it in a grizzly that's just white and black, and that's been a good fly for me too, with a white body on those sunnier days. So now that we have that tied in, we're going to add our first layer of flash in. I like this gold lateral scale here. It's a really thick type of flash, and I like to mix both thick and thin flashes on my fly. I think it gives it kind of a cool effect, and adds quite a bit of movement to it as well. So we'll cut that off. We're just doing 1 fiber or 1 strand there, and I like to go off each side of the shank. So we'll wrap that on, fold it over, tie that off, and then I'll pull it back here and then cut it just slightly behind the where the hackle tips are at. So now that we got that on there, we're going to add on our next material. This is a craft fur brush from EP. This is the olive, and another cool thing about this is it also has some UV fiber strands in there, just adding kind of a little more bling to the fly. And if you look at bait fish underneath the water, when they flip and they swim, you see different forms of flash that come off of it, and I think this material mimics that really well. It's also something nice to have on there because I think the flash bounces off it as well too. Gives it a really cool effect when it's in the water, when it's swimming. So just tie that on by the tip. Secure that piece of wire on there, and then I grab it. And with this, I like to be pretty light with the fly because, we're spey casting, so we want to keep our fly super light and easy to cast while still having quite a bit of bulk in the flies. So now we're going to start our wraps. With this, 3 wraps is enough. Just kind of enough to get that good profile. And, our bait fish they start off with a big head and they get down slender. And you're going to see when this fly is swimming through the water, those hackle fibers kind of move together and the flash stays pretty skinny with that bigger head. Looks really, really realistic when it's when it's swimming through the water. I'm going to tie that off. Do some tight wraps in front just to secure it. Cut it from the back of your scissors because it is wire and it will dull out your scissors pretty quickly. So now that we got that all trimmed back, we're going to add on our next bit of flash here. I really like this this copper UV flash. I've been including it basically on all my flies this last fall, and it's a holographic as well. So when it's in the water, those holographic colors it kind of turns into, you know, a bunch of different things. I mean, you'll have reds and greens that pop out of it too, and you know, has a really cool effect on the fly. And you know, with this, I'll cut, you know, that's roughly 6 strands there, and we're going to tie it on the top of the fly, going off both sides. Do a couple wraps to secure that, and then fold it back over. So we got that laying nice on top. Next material is going to be this, it's kind of like an olive mirage flashaboo. Catches light really well in the water. This is one of the type of flashes that you can really overdo it. So I like to go pretty light with this one, usually with just 2 or 3 strands of it. And this one really will pick up the other colors of flash, and it kind of bounces those colors off there, so you get some really, really cool effects with that swimming. So just those 2 fibers on there. Same thing as the last piece of flash, 2 on both sides of it and tied off the top. And then we're going to secure that on. And then the last one that I like to use is this cranberry flashaboo. Another one where we're going to go pretty light with it, but I'm a big fan of this on all my bait fish type patterns. Really, really good sculpin colored flash on there. So we'll put that on. Tie it off from both sides. Perfect. So we got our flash on there. I like to grab all the flash, take it back here, and kind of do a staggered cut. You know, I don't like having everything all lined up perfectly on the back there, so just kind of trimming it so that I have a bunch of different lengths of flashaboo. I think looks a lot nicer in the water. You know, nothing in nature is perfectly cut square, so you know, trying to mimic that in my flies, I think you're just going to find that much more success in it while you're fishing. Next material after that is this creepy crawly dub. I'm a huge fan of this stuff. Really picks up the light well and kind of has a flickering effect. You know, Steelhead loves spoons, they love spinners, and this material is the closest thing I found that I can put in my flies to give that same effect. Really, really cool to you know, especially once it gets wet and wraps back, or you know, goes in the water. It's there's really nothing else like it. So I like to take a bunch of it, kind of break it in my fingers to trim it up. That's about how much I use right there, and we're just going to clump it on. So I have it up on the top of the fly there, and I'm going to tie it in right from the center of the material. So I like to do a couple wraps on like that, and then I take the material and fold it right back like that. And this is now we're just building that head up on the fly. So a couple wraps, and you can see that's how it looks. And then we're going to do our last material for the fly to complete the head. You know, with this being a sculpin type fly, I like to use greens, but as bait fish, you know, later in the winter, they kind of get a darker head to it. So, you know, feel free to use whatever color you like. This one's just been my personal favorite here the last couple weeks. So it's the Senyo's Laser Dub in the light olive. So I take a good pinch of it, just like that, and I start breaking it up. Just breaking it in half like that, just to get the fibers a little bit shorter. I find the fibers are too long right out of the package to build up a correct head on it. And we're just going to tie this in the exact same way that we did our last material, that creepy crawly ice dub. And I'm actually going to add a little bit more on there just for a little more bulk on the fly. Once this does get wet, it lays down quite a bit. So you can use a little more than you would think. And then over time, after, you know, 1,000 snap tees and double Speys, these materials, they do fall out a little bit, so it's good to put a little bit extra on from the beginning. So we have that all matched up, and we're going to tie it on, same thing right from the center, behind your eyes. 3 or 4 securing wraps, and then fold it back like that, and then tie in front, secure it, and then the last thing, you're just going to whip finish the fly. Cut it, and there you got there is the Marco's Wood Perch. Super nice, sparkly fly. You know, obviously change your flash colors depending on the light. This is one that I would typically use, you know, on our darker, rainier type day. But, you know, once you're looking at it, there's not a lot of material back there. Super easy to cast, really fun fly to fish that the Steelhead have been liking for me. Thanks a lot, and you guys have a great night.
You sure you haven't done this before?